Star Crusader is one of those video games that I barely remember playing from back in the early 90s, and I definitely didn't know that there was a book about the video game. This is in no way related to the book series that is also called Star Crusader, or at least I don't think they're related. From what I can tell, the book does a decent job of following the video game story, which is way too convoluted for a video game. There is so much backstory in this, and yeah, it makes the game way more complicated than it really has to be. So our main character's name is Roman. He is a fighter pilot for the Goran Empire. The Empire is a totalitarian and militaristic space empire that is ruthlessly expanding across the galaxy in order to impose its idea of how just everything should be run. They will kill any alien race that just is there, whether or not that alien race decides they want to peacefully coexist with the Goran Empire or not. Yeah. So Roman has his doubts about the approach that the Empire is taking, but doesn't really do anything aside from whining about it for much of the book. The book does have other characters, but for the most part, they don't really matter. His girlfriend is pretty important. She's the one that eventually convinces him to switch sides, but she doesn't. That just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it feels very video game-esque, because it is. Then there is Lawton. He wants Roman's job, and it's built up that Lawton might kill Roman at any time, but he doesn't in the book. Maybe he does in the game, but that's not really mentioned, and I wasn't all that interested in going back and playing the game just to see what happened. Then there is Blois. He is the superior officer, and he's also Roman's friend. He's also not really that important. He tries to shield Roman from just the upper command and everything, but doesn't really do a good job, then gets kidnapped not really kidnapped, gets arrested for not following orders at some point, and yeah, he's just sort of there. The alien characters, and there are a lot of them, are also involved in the story. They also don't really matter all that much. Some of them are given a little bit of time to shine, but by and large, they don't really matter. And that has more to do with the source material than what the author is writing about. There is one character that's pretty cool, and that's Quark. He was a pretty interesting character. He's a shapeshifter that is native to the region that this book takes place in. And yeah, you learn a little bit about him. You actually learn more about him than most of the characters. And I think the author does an excellent job of keeping him mysterious. At times, Quark kind of feels like a plot device to just get the main character out of certain circumstances. And yeah, it's kind of cool. He'll just sort of pop up and say, hey, by the way, there's a bomb, you need to go stop it. Or he'll hint that there's a bomb on this base, or something along those lines. He's probably my favorite part of all of this, even if he does kind of, well, not him, but it's sort of a dead giveaway that something's going to happen when Quark shows up. So there's that, but he is just really cool and oddly out of place with everyone else on board. We have a few big bad people in this. There's Ferdinand is kind of the big bad guy at the very beginning, and then there's also Lawton and Shiloh. They're more terrible people, but they don't really do as much as Ferdinand does. These are honestly like the worst collection of bad guys. They're well written at times, but I didn't come away with, a feeling that I should care about them at all. Our cast of characters is fighting a collection of alien species who've joined together to push the Goran Empire out of their region. After some kind of lackluster battles, Ferdinand is shot out of an airlock, and then he's just kind of gone. He's basically been trying to kill our main character in order to achieve the results that he wants, and every time something fails, he blames it on the people around him instead of his own idiocy. Eventually, there's no one left for him to blame, and Roman kills him by shooting him out of an airlock. Then we get Shiloh, and Shiloh's sort of the person who was a step above Ferdinand. He takes over, and he's just as big of a dick, but he's a lot more slimy about it. So this change of command leads to two things. First is a war crime by Roman. That's kind of fun. And I'm not sure if it's a war crime in this book's universe, but, many of the pilots seem very unhappy about it. They blow up some satellites, which spreads toxic material onto a planet's atmosphere, and kill everyone on the planet. This actually causes his girlfriend to leave him, so Roman is the one who did it, his girlfriend bails. Some other pilot who might have been important in the game, but really wasn't all that important to the plot, leaves before this takes place. And this just sort of causes this crisis of confidence for Roman. The second thing that happens is Roman goes on a diplomatic mission. However, this turns out to be a ruse to kill the alien leaders, and then they wanted to arrest Roman after that to say he's the one who killed them all, and he went against orders and everything, and blah, 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 blah. Roman ends up saving the leaders of the alien alliance and defects to the alliance. So once he joins up with the aliens, Roman leads a series of missions to blow up the Goran version of the Death Star. That's basically what it is. It's a super base, but it's essentially the Death Star. And it's kind of the Death Star from the Return of the Jedi, so it's the crappy one that you can just fly right in because it's still under construction. There's the same scenario pops up in a lot of sci-fi movies, games, and books, but it works pretty well. They blow up the Goran base, kill the bad guys, and the important characters survive. Then things just kind of end. The Goran don't send reinforcements and just sort of avoid that area, or at least they don't send reinforcements right away. And Roman decides to become the god of some primitive planet. He doesn't want to be seen like that, but he's basically going to be the god of some primitive race because he's incredibly technologically advanced, and this race is sort of primitive, and just by giving them technology, he's going to be seen as some sort of deity. He's living in a frickin' advanced, basically a castle that they built on this alien planet, and the inhabitants are still using stone tools and everything. And that's kind of where we end. Everyone just sort of goes their separate ways, and the story stops because there were no more video games, so there's no more book to go along with it. I really hope that the ending of the video game was better than this, to be honest. Everyone just kind of sucks in this book. I was looking for someone that I could like or even root for, but there just wasn't anyone that was there for any substantial period of time. And that's not really the author's fault, because he does a good job of at least trying to make some of the people likable, but he's dealing with source material where just everyone really sucks. And everyone just makes bad decisions. The Gorans are all generally awful, and the Alliance of Aliens aren't any better, even if they are just a little bit more sympathetic than the evil empire they're going up against. It seems like you don't have to be really good at your job to be in the Goran military. you just have to make everyone around you look bad because all of the officers suck, including Roman. He's a good pilot, but all he does is whine constantly. And he keeps dropping hints that Lawton's going to try to kill him, but Lawton never really does until the very end, when Lawton actually has a reason to kill him. Also, you don't really get to know the aliens all that well, and when you do get to know them, they're doing horrible shit. And you just kind of have to ask yourself, why am I following any of these people? None of them are good. They all really just kind of suck. And yeah, everyone's just trying to blame their failures on other people around them so they don't look as bad as they really are. I feel a little weird calling the aliens in this book aliens because everyone is presented as being an extraterrestrial. Even the Goran Empire, while they look like human beings in the games, they're still aliens. And yeah, it's... the aliens in this book, they're either like fanatical religious zealots or fanatical warriors, or they're corrupted merchants. So they're already shown in a light that wouldn't make you want to be a part of that or want to root for them. And yeah, then you also have the Gorans who are... oh gosh, they're just terrible. There is one alien race that was helped by the Gorans, who have basically become nomads because in the process of helping these aliens, their planet was destroyed and now they just float around this region of space because they have no homes and they have no planet anymore. So yeah, they're the only ones that are somewhat sympathetic, but they're not really in the book that much, which is kind of sad. It would have been better if Roman had followed them around. Some of the other Goran pilots are okay, especially the few that actually defect along with Roman, but there aren't enough of them. And while they do question what's going on, they still don't really do anything by and large. It's really kind of weird. Like other novels based on video games, the author is just kind of constrained by what the video game story is. And in the case of Star Crusader, there's way more backstory for this game than there is main story. And the main story really isn't all that great. So the author had to bring in some pretty good ideas, but they just don't get developed that well. So let's get into likes and dislikes here. This can be a fun story at times. It really feels like a discount version of Wing Commander or a Wing Commander ripoff. Some of the characters are kind of interesting at times. The universe that this takes place in sounds really cool, but we don't really see a whole lot of it. At times, things just kind of happen. Like plot points are dropped quickly and then get resolved in between the chapters, which is probably one of the spots where you could have done something as the author if they were allowed to do something with it. It can be confusing when a character is introduced only to be killed off very quickly for seemingly no reason. Nishmar is a perfect example of this. He gets introduced before a mission, has a brief point of view where he basically explains that he shouldn't be here, gets quickly captured by the aliens after the mission goes sideways, and then gets killed off in between the chapters. So, what was really the point of him being here? I'm not really sure. It did move some of the plot forward and further drive a wedge between Shiloh and Roman. Or not Shiloh, but Ferdinand and Roman. But I don't think you really needed Nishmar to be there to really do anything. You could have just replaced him with one of the other pilots that the game didn't do anything with. So, yeah, it was kind of weird for him to be there. Det, I think I'm pronouncing his name right because it's Debt, is another character that doesn't really seem to have much purpose. He is built up a bit, and it is clear that he isn't one of the main characters. When he defects, it doesn't come out of nowhere because it is explained, this is what his thought process was. But it doesn't really mean much because he kind of disappears after that. I had to check my notes to really see if it mattered, and I don't really think it did because he just defects and then fades into the background because then Hela and Roman defect, and they just sort of take over whatever role he could have had. I was getting really tired of just Roman's internal struggle with the Goran approach to diplomacy. He brings up how the aliens have only seen the violent side of the Goran Empire, but we don't see the other side of the Goran Empire. So both the reader and the aliens only see the military conquest and the constant backstabbing of the Gorans. So I'm not sure what the hell Roman is talking about, because it seems like the only side of the Goran Empire is military, and that side really sucks. Maybe that was the point. I'm not really too sure. By the end of the book, I was kind of hoping Roman would get shot and killed by Lawton, and then Hela would just become our main character, because that would have been at least something different. But yeah, that never happens either. So overall, I just didn't really like the book all that much. I wouldn't say that I liked this book very much. There isn't anything wrong with it. The parts of the story are good, but overall it's just kind of boring at times, and important plot points happen kind of in between the chapters. The constant internal struggle that the main character goes through is really more annoying than anything else. Roman is questioning the whole political system of the Goran Empire when he remembers to do so, because he forgets an awful lot. He complains a lot about the Empire. The other pilots also do this, and I wish it was either acted on or never brought up, because it doesn't really mean anything. Like, at the end of the day, only, I think, 4 people leave and join the rebellion. So it's, it's just kind of pointless. I know this was part of the game, but I just don't think it really needed to be in the book, or it could have been better fleshed out or followed up on. I wanted to see where the story was going at least, but I don't really think it was worth it in the end. You know how it's going to end. You know he's going to end up winning. It's one of the many science fiction tropes that this book is kind of built on. And yeah, the main character becoming disillusioned with his side, it's interesting. It's just, I wish it led to more, because the Goran Empire is still out there. The Alien Alliance hasn't really won. It's just sort of a lull, and then we're left with nothing. So, yeah. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.